up, guys? It's Richie here with Satisfying Football. This is your Week 8 noon college football games. There's actually quite a lot of games on this day and the noon 3:30 game, so let's just jump into it. Clemson taking out Louisville. Clemson coming off a 45-14 demolishing of FSU. Trevor Lawrence is okay, 173 touchdowns a pick, added 40 yards rushing and a touchdown. Travis Etienne went off 127 rushing and a touchdown receiving. He had 320 rushing yards. Defense had 3 sacks, 4 turnovers, a pick 6, and only allowed 253 yards. Whereas Louisville had an upset. Wake Forest was undefeated and ranked, and Louisville was actually 4-2. They beat them 62-59 in a friggin' awesome back and forth game. Is amazing. Both their quarterbacks played well. Evan Conley, 196 passing, 2 touchdowns, added 79 rushing yards and a touchdown. Michael Cunningham passed for 99 and 2 touchdowns, and added 59 rushing. Fitzpatrick, 5 catches, 125, and 2 touchdowns. They had 520 yards of offense. They did turn over twice. Their defense forced 3 turnovers, but they had 668 yards of offense, and they did have a kick return for a touchdown. I think this might be closer than people expect it to be. I'm going to put Clemson on upset alert, but I think Clemson will end up winning this game. But I think this might be a bit closer than people think. All right, West Virginia and Oklahoma. West Virginia lost 38-14 to Iowa State, but they were only down 21-14 going into the fourth quarter. Quarterback Austin Kendall was hurt. Jack Allison came in, 140, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. They only had 41 rushing yards. They only had 190 total yards, and they turned it over 3 times. Our defense did, though, have 3 sacks and a pick 6. And they only allowed 372 yards to Iowa State, who was averaging about 468 or something. So they did decently. Oklahoma had a tough game, tough win against Texas, 34-27. Jalen Hurts, he was fine, 235, 3 touchdowns, and ran for 131 and a touchdown, but he did throw a pick and he did fumble it. Kennedy Brooks ran for 105. CeeDee Lamb went off for 10 catches, 171, and 3 touchdowns. They had 511 yards of offense, but that was actually about 130 below their average. Defense had 9 sacks in that game. Texas only allowed 10 sacks coming into the game all season. Oklahoma had 9. That many. 9 sacks. I expect Oklahoma to not have too much trouble with West Virginia here. Maybe close for like a quarter, but I think Oklahoma shouldn't have a problem. Wisconsin and Illinois, man, Wisconsin has the best defense, one of the best defenses I've ever seen. They shut out Michigan State 38-0. That's their 4th shutout this season. Jonathan Taylor, he was actually held below 100 yards rushing, but he had 2 rushing touchdowns. They had 402 yards of offense. The defense had 2 turnovers, a pick 6, and only allowed 149 yards. And they're facing an Illinois offense that can move it sometimes, but Wisconsin could get another shutout here. I mean, Illinois, they lost 42-25 to Michigan, but they actually kept it close. They were down 28-0 at one point and got it all the way back to 28-25, and then Michigan kind of went away with it. Matt Robinson came into play, a 192 passing, 1 touchdown pass and a rushing touchdown. Josh Amadubebe, 5 catches, 102 and a touchdown. Defense did force 2 turnovers, but I think Wisconsin should blow them out. All right, the Gators faced on South Carolina. Gators, they played better than I thought against LSU, but they ended up losing 42-28. Kyle Trask had a really good game, 310 passing, 3 touchdowns, but the only mistake, they were down by 7, he threw a pick, and that was pretty much it. Tight end Kyle Pitts, 5 catches, 108. They did run for 146 yards, and they actually put up 457 yards of offense. Whereas South Carolina had an awesome upset, huge upset of Georgia. In double overtime, they beat them 20-17. Ryan Helinski, he was really solid, 15-20, 116 and touchdown, then he got hurt. The defense had 3 sacks, 4 turnovers. Israel Mukwamu had 3 interceptions and a pick 6, then they won in overtime. This will be a tough game. South Carolina is a tough defense. I think Florida did show that they were a top 10 team, and I think they should come out with a victory here, but Florida better be on it because South Carolina, their offense is so-so. It's fine, and Florida proved that they can actually move the ball, so I think Florida should win this one. Auburn's taking on Arkansas. Auburn coming off a bye. Their last game was a 24-13 loss to Florida. Bo Nix was not good in that game. He showed he was a freshman, 145 passing, a touchdown, and threw 3 interceptions. They had 269 total yards. They turned it over 4 times. However, the defense did have 4 sacks and forced 4 turnovers. Whereas Arkansas, they lost to Kentucky 24-20. Both quarterbacks combined for 12-27 for 122. Rakeem Boyd did have a really good game, 134 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. And they ran for 183 as a team. I expect Auburn to bounce back here and should get a win against Arkansas. All right, this next one's an interesting Big Ten game. I think Purdue and Iowa. Purdue, Maryland, they played Maryland. I don't know what the fuck to think about Maryland. Purdue killed Maryland, 40-14. Jack Plummer had the best game of his career now. As a young career, as a freshman, at 420 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. Bryson Hopkins, 10 catches, 140 yards. David Bell, 9 catches, 138 yards and 2 touchdowns. They had 547 total yards. Their defense forced 2 turnovers, had a pick 6, but they did allow 403 yards to a decent Maryland offense. Whereas Iowa, they kept Penn State one of the top 5 offenses in the country, and they only held them to 17 points, but Iowa lost 17-12. Nate Stanley was fine, 286, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. They only ran for 70 yards. They had 2 turnovers. Their defense did have 3 sacks. This is an interesting game because Purdue seemed to have something going last week against Maryland. Iowa has a great defense and not a very good offense, whereas Purdue, they can have, and they showed last week, they can have a really great offense. This is kind of this is a tricky game. I'm going to give Iowa the edge here. It's in Iowa. It's hard to play there. I'm going to give Iowa the edge, but they're an upset alert here. Purdue showed that they can play now. Jack Plummer showed what he can do. I'm not saying he's not going to throw for 400 yards, but if he puts up 250 and 2 touchdowns, that may be enough against this Iowa offense. But I'll go with Iowa here. All right, Houston and UConn. Houston's coming off a 38-23 loss to Cincinnati. Clayton Tune, he was 9 of 27, not very good, 184, 2 touchdowns, and he threw 3 interceptions. Kyle Porter ran for 107. Marquez Stevenson, 3 catches, 120, and a touchdown. They actually had 424 yards, but they committed 5 turnovers, and they kept it pretty close most of the game against Cincinnati, but those 5 turnovers hurt them. Their defense did force 2 turnovers. No, defense didn't really do much. UConn got killed by Tulane, 49-7. They were outgained by 400 yards, 634-234. I expect Houston to come back here and get a win against UConn. All right, Kent State and Ohio. Kent State, they're 3-3, surprising to me. They beat Akron 26-3. Dustin Crum, 149 passing and a touchdown, and ran for 82 yards. Will Matthews ran for 126 and a touchdown. The defense had 4 sacks, and I'll shout out their kicker, Matthew Trickett, 4-4 on field goals. They're facing Ohio. Ohio lost in a shootout to Northern Illinois, 39-36. Nathan Rourke, 258 passing and 2 touchdowns and 80 yards rushing and a touchdown. Shane Hook, 7 catches, 131 and a touchdown. Their defense, though, allowed 5-10. I'm going to give the edge here to Ohio. I keep going with Ohio. Ohio's usually one of the better MAC teams, but Kent State's shown they at least can be competitive. But I think Ohio should win this one. All right, Georgia Tech and Miami. Georgia Tech, they lost 41-23 to Duke. They were down 38-7 at one point. James Graham, 15-35 isn't good, but 206 passing and a touchdown, rushing and passing isn't bad. Jordan Mason had a nice game, 106 rushing, and they actually did outgain Duke by 6 yards. Whereas Miami had an awesome defensive upset over a ranked Virginia team. Miami beat them 17-9. And Cozy Perry passed for 182 and a touchdown and ran for a touchdown. And Miami's defense had 5 sacks in the game and held Virginia every time they got into the red zone. They kept having to settle for field goals. They missed, I think, 1, and they're making the 3 field goals. That was their 9 points. I expect Miami should beat Georgia Tech here. All right, this next game, NC State, Boston College, should be a pretty close ACC game. NC State's coming off a nice 16-10 win against Syracuse. Bailey Hockman was good enough, 205 passing. He did throw a pick. The defense had 8 sacks in that game. Luis Acias had 3 sacks on his own, and they were able to hold down a really potent Syracuse offense to only 10 points. Whereas Boston College, they're coming off a bye week. Their last game was a 41-39 shootout loss to Louisville. Anthony Brown, he passed for 193 and a touchdown, then he was hurt. Then Dennis Grosso came in and was pretty good, 111 passing, 3 touchdowns, and added 47 rushing. A.J. Dillon ran for 118. They ran for 259 as a team. They had 563 yards of offense, but they turned it over twice, and their defense gave up 664 yards. I think this should be close. I'm going to go edge Boston College here just because I think they have the better overall offense. A.J. Dillon's a good running back. They showed that both their quarterbacks can play pretty well. NC State seems like their quarterback situation, whoever they're putting in, they're capable, but just not very consistent. I'll give the edge to Boston College here, but I expect this to be kind of a relatively low scoring, like a 24-20 sort of game. All right, Iowa State, Texas Tech, expect a shootout here. Iowa State beat West Virginia 38-14. Brock Purdy, 229 passing, 1 touchdown, and ran for 1. Breece Hall went off for 132 rushing and 3 touchdowns. Defense had 3 sacks, forced 3 turnovers, and only allowed 190 yards to West Virginia. Whereas Texas Tech, they almost upset Baylor. They lost in double overtime, 33-30. Jet Duffy, 362 passing, 1 touchdown. Did throw 2 interceptions though. So Roderick Thompson ran for 153 and 2 touchdowns. RJ Turner had 7 catches for 138. They had 510 yards of offense, but they had 3 turnovers. Whereas the defense forced 3 turnovers, but allowed 525. It was an awesome game to watch back and forth, and I expect this one to be just as good. I'm not sure who to go with here. It's in Lubbock. It's hard to play in Lubbock, but Iowa State's been pretty consistent. I'll go Texas Tech here. But this one might be first to 50 wins. All right, Toledo and Ball State. I don't know what to think about this game. Toledo, they were 4-1, but then they lost to a bad Bowling Green team, 20-7. Mitchell Guanani, 17-20, 194 and a touchdown. They ran for 40, but they turned it over twice. They just couldn't get much going. Whereas Ball State, they went back and forth with Eastern Michigan and ended up beating them 29-23. They were actually down 23-14 in third and came back. Drew Plitt, 255 passing and 2 touchdowns and ran for 2 more. Caleb Huntley ran for 152. Justin Hall, 11 catches, 109 and a touchdown. The defense had 3 sacks and forced for 4 turnovers. I expect this to be pretty close. Ball State has one of the better passing offenses in the country. Toledo normally has one of the better just offenses in the country. I keep picking against Ball State, but Toledo is good, and I think last week was an aberration. I think Toledo will get this, but this could be a pretty high-scoring game where I'll go Toledo. All right, Central Michigan and Bowling Green. Central Michigan beat New Mexico State 42-28. David Moore, the quarterback, was suspended, so Quentin Dormady came in, passed for 134 and 2 touchdowns. Kobe Lewis had 161 rushing and 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Ward had 131 rushing and 1 touchdown. They ran for 352 yards as a team. The defense had 3 sacks, forced for 2 turnovers. Whereas Bowling Green, like I said, they just a bit of an upset over Toledo, 20-7. Grant Lloyd, 185, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, and ran for 137 yards and a touchdown. Bryson Denley, 6 catches, 100 yards and a touchdown. They ran for 240 as a team. Defense had 5 sacks and 2 turnovers. It seems like Bowling Green with Lloyd might be more competitive, but Central Michigan's been putting up a lot of points and been able to move it no matter who's at quarterback. I'm going to go Central Michigan here. Northern Illinois taking on Miami of Ohio. Northern Illinois is coming off a nice 39-36 win over Ohio. Ross Bowers, 338 passing, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Trey Harbison ran for 113 and 3 touchdowns. Cole Tucker, 8 catches, 118 yards. Mitchell Brinkman, 5 catches, 100 yards. They put up 510 yards of offense. Where Miami of Ohio lost 38-16 Western Michigan. Brett Gabbert, 206 yards passing, but he threw 3 interceptions. Even though they outgained Western Michigan in yardage, they had the 3 turnovers. Miami of Ohio, they have potential here to keep it close. And Northern Illinois, they're both 2-4, but Northern Illinois is normally a pretty good MAC team. I'm going to give the edge to Northern Illinois here. All right, TCU and Kansas State. Now, this might be for a bowl game in the future because both kind of mediocre, and they're both their schedules down the line are very, very tough. It'll be hard for either one to get into a bowl, especially if one loses its game. Both teams coming off byes. TCU, they lost to Iowa State 49-24. Max Dugan, 219 passing and 2 touchdowns, and they turned it over twice. Where Kansas State, they lost 31-12 to Baylor. There wasn't really much to say about them. They put up 341, but they turned it over twice themselves. I'm going to give the edge to TCU here. I think their offense is slightly better than Kansas State, but I expect this to be pretty close. Maybe like a 27-24 kind of game. All right, Oregon State and Cal. Oregon State, they got murdered by Utah 52-7. They put up 217 yards of offense. Cal's coming off a bye. They lost 17-7 to Oregon. Devin Monster, 190 passing, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, and 30 rushing yards. They had 256 total yards and 2 touchdowns. Their defense did force 3 turnovers. This is interesting because Oregon State actually has a pretty good offense despite what they did against Utah. Cal has a really good defense, but Cal doesn't have much of an offense. I know I should go with the favorite. Cal is the better team. Cal's 4-2. I feel like there might be a little bit of a small upset here. I'm going to go Oregon State in this one. All right, then you got New Mexico and Wyoming. New Mexico, they lost 35-21 to Colorado State. Sharian Jones, 8 of 17, 89 yards. passing and a pick. Not very good passing wise. He ran for 54. Bryson Carroll had an awesome game, 193 and a touchdown, even though he dropped a touchdown. Like, it was like a long touchdown run, and right before he crossed the goal line, he dropped it like a freaking idiot. They ran for 256 as a team, but they turned it over 3 times. However, the defense did have 4 sacks and 2 turnovers. Wyoming is 4-2, and they've been playing awesome. So if New Mexico wants to keep it close, they gotta not turn it over a bunch of times and get that running game going again. Wyoming lost a really, really close game to San Diego State, 26-22. San Diego State scored with like 2 minutes left to win. Sean Chambers, he needs to get that pass completion percentage up. He was only 5 of 14, 109, a touchdown, a pick, ran for 49 and 2 touchdowns. They had only 266 yards of offense, and they turned it over twice. I'm going to give Wyoming the edge here. Wyoming has actually been really good this game. All right, in the final this year. All right, the final game of the new ones, Coastal Carolina and Georgia Southern. A pretty good Sun Belt game here. Coastal Carolina lost 31-21 to Georgia State. Bryce Carpenter, 118 passing, 2 touchdowns, and 49 rushing yards. They ran for 322 but they had 2 turnovers. It was Georgia State. They're coming out of a bye, and the last game was a 20-17 win over South Alabama in double overtime. Shea Wertz only passed for 78 yards, but ran for 102. They ran for 310 as a team. This is both games. Georgia Southern has more of the option offense here. Coastal Carolina, they don't have an option offense per se, but they do run it quite a bit. This will be a really close game. It's at Georgia Southern. I don't know, Georgia Southern, I mean, they've been kind of inconsistent this year, but Wertz was hurt for a few games, but Coastal Carolina has shown they can put up some points. I'll go Coastal Carolina here, just edge them out. All right, those are my noon games. Watch out later for my 3:30 games, and watch out for my weekday games. Like, subscribe, everything. Peace.